got a nice little topic that I'm interested to hear about. You want to go and read the tea leaves of commodities. What have you got for us today, mate?
Okay, so there are a few things out there that are really good indicators of what's coming. Now, remember, the markets in general are discounting mechanisms. They always look down the road. They never act on the data that's current. They're always trying to anticipate what's coming, because these Wall Street types, they want to be in first, right? So they're always anticipating events. So that's why we get this phrase. You probably heard it. Buy the rumor, sell the news, right? That's why many times when a good piece of news comes out from a company, the stock actually sells off. And the average person thinks, well, what happened? It was good news. The stock should be going up. Well, that's because a lot of people, the street was anticipating that news, and they got in before. So when the news was out, that news was old news to them. Might be new news to you, but it was old news to them. Well, there are some indicators that are more important than others. And the indicator that I'm going to show you right now is a really strong indicator about what you can expect to happen in our economy, not just in America, but the global economy. And that is, drum roll, please, oil. There it is, Rob. Now you can scratch that itch, oil. And I want to show you what's been happening to oil over the past just few days. In the past 3 days alone, oil has gone from about $77 a barrel down to $69 a barrel. It was down to $68. So for oil, that is a very dramatic move in just a matter of a few days. I can tell you how you don't know what it takes to move oil. Okay, it's a big deal. You need big macro events to move the price of oil in a substantive way. Now, the reason why this is so important is oil kind of is a very good indicator of what the street expects the economy to look like a little bit down the road. Because as the economy, as you can imagine, it's common sense, right? As the economy is strong and the demand is up, right? People are out there, they're spending money. People they're going on trips, they're spending money. Manufacturing is up, so productivity is up. Times are good, so those factories are, they're purring along, so they're using oil. So when there's increased economic activity, there's more demand for oil. Therefore, the price of oil goes up. In periods of weak economic activity, the price of oil goes down because there's less need for oil. So remember, when you're thinking about the markets, you got to learn to look at things through a certain lens. You can't look at them the way the average person looks at them. You got to look at them the way Wall Street looks at them. You want to say, well, which means you got to turn it to the left a little bit. Look at it a little skewed. Say, well, what is the story behind this? Because every big move in the stock, in the market, in a commodity, it has a story behind it. Okay, so we're always trying to extrapolate that story. And in this case, since oil is such a good indicator of upcoming economic conditions, that's why I look at oil a lot to help me determine, is there a recession coming or what? So this is one more very strong argument that a recession is coming. Well, listen, a recession is here, guys. I hate to break it to you. It's been here for a while. These government numbers are rigged. Before anybody does any kind of grocery shopping, we have been in a recession for a while. But officially, we haven't hit that recession level. But if you look at the price of oil as an example, that's another big red flag that the economy is going to be slowing down. Economic activity will be slowing down. Therefore, the need for oil will be slowing down. About 6 weeks ago, there's big news out of Saudi Arabia that they decided that OPEC Plus decided to cut their oil production. And of course, everyone's saying, oh, they're doing this to stick this to America. Now, their argument was, well, we're doing this as a safety valve in the event that the economy slowed down. Well, it looked like they're kind of right. So their measures were actually kind of prudent. So watching oil here, I think there's one more big clue that recession is going to be looming really large in our lives. The cost of living is going to be going up pretty dramatically. And again, another reason to get your house in order, get your financial house in order. So, Rob, what do you think? Does that make sense, or am I completely blowing smoke?
No, your analysis is bang on, and I see why you would be looking to something like that. But we've seen massive manipulation of oil prices in the last 12 months as well, and we've seen the Russian price cap at $60 a barrel as well, trying to bleed the Russians dry, but they've got an unlimited supply of that, so it really doesn't do anything. But I want to share a little a funny meme I came across yesterday with you that really kind of typifies and explains exactly what's going on with the Russian oil sanctions. And if you're not across all of this, I promise you in less than 2 seconds, you'll understand. If you're listening on Spotify, I'll explain it. So here's the meme.
Yeah.
The Russians are selling. So if you're just listening, you're not watching. The Russians are selling the oil to India, and India are refining it into fuel, who sell it to Europe. So that's how, that's a funny meme, right? And the picture, if you're only listening, is a lady's holding a coconut with a straw in it, and she's got the straw in her mouth, and there's a boy next to her with a straw in her mouth. And the Russian oil is the coconut, the woman is India, and Europe is the dude sucking the oil out of the girl's mouth there. It's like, that really explains exactly what's going on here on planet Earth. And the sanctions, the oil sanctions that we have against these Russians stopping this, is that it's just fake. It's not real. That's the unspoken truth right there in that meme. That's the unspoken truth. It's almost the only way that you could go out there and say it without being canceled on social media or canceled on some platform or another, because you're not actually perpetuating the deep state narrative that these sanctions are biting them hard. It's really hurting them. It's like, yeah, it might be biting them hard. It's really hurting them. But there's also ways to circumvent that. There was a congressional hearing a couple of months ago where they were talking about how we were supplying goods to Iran and Iran was supplying goods to Russia. So we were indirectly funding the war with Russia. So we're sending gazillions of dollars over to Ukrainians to fight the Russians, but we're funding the Russians on that side. Yeah. And that's exactly what's going on here, where the Indians are taking the oil from the Russians, and it's what we started out in the show saying, do you be on one side or the other? The Chinese are not on one side or the other. The Indians are not on one side or the other. They're in the middle going, oh, we just need to look out for ourselves. And in some ways, they're both right. And in some ways, they're both wrong as well, because they're perpetuating the conflict. And once again, it just comes down to looking at who stands to make the most from this. And if you look at oil in isolation, like you're kind of looking there for an indicator of what's coming, you will see that. But then when you take a step out, another 10,000 feet out, you come out from 50,000 feet, you go up to 60 or 70,000 feet and take that view, you'll see something else that will kind of like grind your gears a little bit and go, my analysis is not quite right there because I can't factor that stupid thing in there. But it is a deeply complicated subject, and it is a great leading indicator as well. I've always used that as a leading indicator of what's happening. So, I still drive around here. I have to fill my car up, and whatever I do, I'd never fill my car up in Cronulla because the prices are about 30% more expensive down here where I am, because we're right on the beach, and for some reason we have more money than everybody else. That's what the petrol companies think. So if I drive that away for 10 minutes, the price of petrol comes down by about 20 or 30%. It's quite significant. It's a big difference for me, at least. And I definitely notice that. But I don't notice it at the pump because I'm filling up my little Mini and it costs me $50. So instead of $50, it'll cost me $60 if I do it down here. But, for the sake of it, it's not much. But the point is, I'm still paying higher petrol prices today than I was pre-war. Why is that? And if I look back at your chart there, are the oil prices higher today than they were in February 2022? No, the same, about the same. So why is the price of petrol double what it was before the war? What's going on there?
Yeah, well, a part of it. Now that's a good point, because a lot of people think that there's a direct correlation between the price of oil and the gas they're taking out of the pump. Oh, oil just went up, so the gas is going up. Well, that's part of the reason, but there's more to it than that. Look, there are here in Minnesota, among all the other things we have to consider, we have to consider seasonality, because the petrol is different. The petrol mix is different in the summer than it is in the winter, and so there's that switchover, right? And then you got to wonder what kind of taxes did the legislature just put on the gas tap while you weren't looking. So the oil should be going. So the price should be coming down now. Well, not if they added those taxes that you weren't paying attention to. Well, those taxes are still there. Taxes never go away. Right. So so it is kind of a complicated. There's not a one-to-one correlation to the price of oil.
This is the problem, Ed. You articulate that beautifully, right? By saying, and you sum it up by saying it's just more complicated than that. But the problem is, whenever somebody puts a microphone in front of a politician and goes, "Why are petrol prices so high?" They go, "Well, there's a war in Ukraine." But the oil prices are less than what they were a year ago. Like,
yeah.
what?
Yeah.